Well, I am back. I apologize for that. Normally, I switch my phone over to data. Today, I forgot, and our lovely internet, though they've been here many times lately trying to get it running right, our Wi-Fi has nothing but problems. I have had to restart this live stream. I apologize for that. Let's start all over. Hopefully, folks will jump back on here. I apologize to those that I lost. Looks like Herb made it back first, so Herb gets the gold star for the day. All right. Again, I apologize for the interruption on that. It's all lovely Windstream internet issues, but we're on data now, so we should be all good. So let's go back. We're looking at 1 Peter chapter 3, and we're looking at verses 8 through 12 today. All right. So, and I see Laura made it back. Good for you. Apologize for that internet issue, Laura. Okay, let's look at these 5 verses. Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, repay with a blessing. For it is for this that you were called, that you might inherit a blessing. For those who desire life and desire to see good days, let them keep their tongues from evil, and their lips from speaking deceit. Let them turn away from evil and do good. Let them seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. So, we've been talking, as we've been going through Peter, about all these things about enduring basically during suffering, right? We talked about dealing with unfair, unjust authority, unfair bosses, and then perhaps in a marital situation, talking about accepting that authority. I'm not really talking there. It wasn't really about being persecuted by any means, but that it's some mutual respect, mutual help, mutual support for one another. So we're continuing on in that idea of a mutual support, mutual care, mutual love for one another, aren't we today? He's concluding finally. You see, finally, of course, we've got a few more chapters to go. So his finally becomes a little bit of a rant, perhaps we'll say. I never do that. So Peter here carries on for a few more chapters, but finally, after all of these things about being suffering, have unity of spirit. Don't fall away from each other. Stick with one another. Have sympathy for each other. That is easier said than done, isn't it? Love for one another. That should go without saying. A tender heart. Again, that goes back to the sympathy. You can't really have sympathy unless you have a tender heart. You have to have empathy for one another, is what the tender heart would mean. Sympathy and empathy aren't necessarily the same thing. And a humble mind. You have to not be putting yourself first. You have to be putting the other first. And that's kind of where you get into that whole thing with marriage. The whole thing with the successful marriage is you always put the other's desires, the other's wishes, the other's good ahead of your own, even if, on both sides. It's not a one-way street. Not one is ahead of the other, though that can change on who's ahead of the other, depending on health things, job things, children, raising children, what have you. And then we get tougher. Before the live stream broke up, I said this was easier. Yeah, but somewhat easier than what we've been going through. Do not repay evil or abuse for abuse. Human nature is to get revenge, right? And we kind of talked about that a couple days ago when we talked about justice. This desire for revenge is a real human emotion, and it's very difficult for us to stay away from that. So this is a very countercultural thing that Christians are supposed to do. This desire not to have revenge and not to abuse someone that's abused you. But on the contrary, repay with a blessing. Do good to those who do bad to you. Remember the whole thing about heaping coals on their head? Well, that seems that's kind of, sounds like you're getting back to them as passive-aggressive kind of thing. It's not what it's about. It's about trying to show them that there is a different way and trying to proselytize, to evangelize through loving someone and doing, spread the word of the Lord all the time. And sometimes, if need be, use words. Remember that one? It's not an exact quote, but I'm close. It's for this that you're called, so that you might inherit a blessing. You inherit a blessing by being a blessing to others. But we don't bless others just because we want a blessing. That's not the right mode either. We share the blessing because we want them to have that knowledge of Christ as well. Those who desire life and desire to see good days, let them keep their tongues from evil. Remember when we were talking about James, about the power of the tongue, the flame of the tongue. When we have experienced that evil and we have that desire to repay that evil or abuse with evil or abuse for evil and whatever, often the route we go that is with the tongue, with our words. Especially in this day and age when we're doing so much communicating over the internet. So much of the time you see somebody that says something, I don't like what they posted. Bam, I'm right into it. And boy, you just blast them. Keyboard warriors. There's a lot of keyboard warriors in this world. And you attack with your words. And, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not true. Words can be extraordinarily damaging. And so we have a lot of people that are dealing with issues from dealing with people on the internet, with people attacking them, especially, you fear of making a comment, or you make a comment and then you are innocently making a comment, and all of a sudden you've got people attacking you left and right. And we've got people, especially young people, but older people too. We have people committing suicide over being attacked on the internet. And heaven forbid that we as a Christian would ever be guilty of doing that. We are, but let's not be. Let's remember, when we have this desire to crash that keyboard and really assault that guy that offended me. We get offended too easily in this world. Remember that? Talked about that before. Remember what was here in 1 Peter. Let them keep their tongues from evil, and let their lips from speaking deceit. Let them turn away from evil and do good. Instead, bless that person. Say a prayer for them. Let them seek peace and pursue it, for the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. The Lord wants to hear from the righteous. He wants to hear from those that love him. He wants to hear prayers of love, not prayers of condemnation, not prayers of that guy, I really hate him. Lord, I hope none of you ever pray that. Let fire, lightning bolts strike him. Remember, I talked about that. Hopefully my ex-wife's not trying to pray down lightning bolts on me. She's not. I'm pretty sure of that. But we pray for a blessing on that person. Pray for protection for that person that hurt us. Pray for, Lord, help them to understand my situation and help me to understand theirs. Don't forget that part of the prayer. I forget that part sometimes. Don't do that. Remember, pray for your enemies, pray for your family, pray for your friends, but pray for your enemies too. And pray for yourself that you can understand your enemies. We really need that in this world right now. We really, really need people to try to have an understanding for one another, because there's just not a whole lot of understanding going on. It's more, crash and burn. And that's got to stop. Somehow we've got to come up with a way to stop that. That's not productive. That just causes, anger causes more anger, And guess where that goes? Pretty soon the whole world's burning. We don't want that. That's not what Jesus was about. Jesus was about unity of spirit, sympathy, and love for one another. So that's it for today, folks. I apologize again for the interruption at the beginning where the live stream died, and I think that's 2 or 3 times I've forgotten to switch my phone from Wi-Fi before I start this. That's my fault entirely. So tomorrow I'm probably going to do something different than we've done before. I'm going to be live streaming as I'm driving down the road, because we've got an appointment in Omaha tomorrow, and so we got to leave early. But I should be able to do with my data, which I use anyway, a live stream as we go running down the interstate. So Catch you on the road tomorrow. Have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone today.